For decades, from 1979, China had a one-child policy designed to slow population growth. Families that had more than one child faced fines, loss of employment, and sometimes forced abortions. Changing the rules in 2016 to allow a second child did not result in a lasting baby boom. And now the Chinese authorities are shifting again to allow couples to have 3 children. There's been a sharp decline in the number of births, and fewer young people have to support more retirees, meaning they can't contribute as much to the economy. These mothers in Shanghai said they were worried about the cost of raising children.
I have 1 kid, but if the government could give us some sort of subsidy, we would definitely have more.
3 children? 2 are enough. Even 1 is exhausting me. I'm tired to death looking after these 2.
Our China media analyst is Kerry Allen.
A lot of young Chinese women who are between 20s and 40s, they were born under the one-child policy, and their parents are getting towards retirement age, and they already expect that they're going to be sole carers for both their parents, also a potential husband, and then however many children they end up having. So that's a lot of responsibility. And bearing in mind that a lot of young urban Chinese women nowadays are pursuing further education and going into employment, there's still a difficulty that in China, because the one-child policy existed, a lot of children, they had the expectation that they had to focus on their studies. Their parents wanted them to be successful because there was only one child. So as a result, a lot of young Chinese people haven't had boyfriends or girlfriends in school. It's very much frowned upon. So the idea that they would come straight out of school and get married and start having children is just unthinkable.
So how big a problem is this for China?
It's a massive problem, and it was clear at the 2 sessions that the government is really trying to do something about the consequences of the now abolished one-child policy, because what you've got in China now are a bigger generation, an aging population where the labour market is just shrinking. You've got a lot of elderly people with no one really to look after them, and a lot of young people with massive burdens, a lot of frustration, not a lot of money, a lot of stress. I mean, they're expected to work overtime to fill in behind these labour gaps. People just are extremely unhappy. There's rising mental health, and people just want to enjoy themselves. They don't want to be thinking about tying themselves down too soon. So you've got a situation now where this younger generation, they've got more money. They want to travel. They want to try out lots of different jobs. They don't want to straight away be settling down, getting married happily ever after.
Just finally, Kerry, we were talking about the sort of impacts of maternity leave and on how young women feel that they have other things that they want to do. What about young men?
Well, this is another interesting thing. So in the one-child policy, there was a lot of known femicide because in China it's very important to continue the family line. So what happened was that there ended up being millions more men than women. And as a result, a lot of young men think, well, I'm probably not going to meet a partner because, there are millions more men than women. So they almost expect that, they might never meet somebody.
That was Kerry Allen. Well, China's plummeting birth rates are far from an isolated phenomenon. It's an issue faced by countries all over the world. As economies develop and people move into urban centres, the cost of living rises and couples tend to choose to have fewer children. Our population correspondent Stephanie Hegarty looks at the wider global picture.
China's fertility rate is at an all-time low, but it's not alone. Most developed and many developing economies have seen a rapid decline in fertility. Earlier this month, the US Census reported a 4% drop in fertility to another record low. Japan and South Korea's population have been shrinking for many years, and much of Europe is on the cusp of population decline. Once couples decide to have fewer children, it's difficult to convince them otherwise. When China removed its one-child policy, it saw a small rise in fertility before rates started to decline again. Scandinavian countries have been celebrated for stemming the decline in fertility with generous, socially liberal and family-friendly policies. But even they've seen only limited success. But it doesn't have to be a problem. Climate activists argue that lower populations will reduce carbon emissions, and having more babies isn't the only way to solve workforce problems. Raising the retirement age, automating the economy, or supplementing the workforce with immigrants are options too.
Stephanie Hegarty.